Well, that's precisely it. It's performance management. Typically, what organizations think of in this case is an annual performance review, which is an event. And what we're really talking about is performance management as an ongoing process and never really ends. I mean, there are phases, typically 4 phases to these type of things, but the key to think about with performance management is why do it? And the reason to do it is you get a high performance culture. High performance cultures, from what we've looked at in the research, we know the outcomes of one of those cultures is essentially, very high profitability, very high productivity, high quality, high customer service. I mean, what organization wouldn't want to have all those things, right? So, we'll find that many of our members may have started with a performance review, and they really don't treat it as a process, and those 4 phases are pretty critical. It could include a yearly performance review, although many human resource professionals today are getting away from a set yearly one, and it really should involve a 4-phase process that's occurring throughout perhaps a year, or it could be a 6-month. That's not unusual either. But what's really important is that it have 2 aspects about measuring performance, and that's the what of performance and the how of performance. What of performance is associated with, are they hitting their productivity goals? Are they completing their projects on time and in scope? Are they hitting their quality standards and attendance standards and that type of thing? You may have employees that are very successful in the what, but then again, they may not be successful in the how. And how is just as important. It's how they get the work done, and how is most often measured through the use of competencies. Okay. So let's look at those 4 phases. The first phase is the employee and the supervisor sitting down and talking about performance expectations. So it's the idea of setting performance expectations for a period of time. The second phase is for the manager or supervisor to monitor and coach performance. And then, after a period of time has occurred, there may be a phase 3, should be a phase 3, in which it is a performance is reviewed or evaluated. And then finally, phase 4 would be rewarding high performance. So one of the things that I think is really most important in these 4 phases of performance management is feedback. In a very new book that came out by Stone and Heem entitled Thanks for the Feedback, they talk about 3 forms of feedback, or 3 ways to give feedback. The first of these is appreciation feedback. And that's really, as the supervisor is monitoring performance, it's catching the employee doing things right and expressing appreciation, and it's really important. Most employees really need to hear that appreciation feedback, and it's not delivered enough. The second type of feedback is what we call coaching feedback, and so it's where there maybe some performance gaps, and having the supervisor outline what would it take to, how could that performance be improved. A final form of feedback, which is the evaluative feedback, is exactly what we're talking about. After a set period of time, let's talk about overall, summatively, what performance was like. Now, what's interesting is that Stone and Heem are very clear that it's important to separate these 3 feedbacks, and so typically what can be done is that they're kind of smudged together. And so we want to make sure that if the supervisor is providing appreciation feedback, it's not followed right away with coaching feedback, catching them doing something right, oh, but here's what you did wrong. So separating the 3 forms of feedback is a critical piece.